I'm here with Chris Maddie, CEO of Versium. Thanks for having us in the office today.
Thanks for being here.
So tell me, what is Versium?
So Versium is a data technology company. We've amassed a significant volume of what we call life data. And life data are data elements that are created as a consumer engages in the real world outside of involvement with an enterprise. And so where a major mobile carrier might know how many minutes you use, what device you have, data elements that are generated around its interaction around its business with you, they don't necessarily know who you are in the real world, meaning are you married? Do you have kids? What kind of car do you drive? Do you subscribe to Golf Magazine? What are your interests? Are you socially active? Do you have a lot of friends and connections? These types of data elements. And those data elements are very powerful in that they can predict human behavior, right? And so when enterprises want to engage in different activities to optimize profit or marketing, these types of data elements can be very powerful in terms of predicting behavior. So we take those data aspects, we combine it with the enterprise data, and then we build predictive models on top of it via an output of a score.
Sure. So I hear big data, right? Big data all the time. It's a big buzzword now. It sounds like you're doing something a little bit different. Tell me, when should a company use big data? Well, why do they come to you?
Yeah, so what we find is there's a big shift from marketing in terms of marketing departments becoming more data driven, right? What we find is that when a large business enterprise like some of the folks we work with, come about the problem from the standpoint of what's the underlying business case that's motivating their objectives, right? Where there's an ROI objective underneath. For example, maybe they're looking to reduce churn in their membership base, or maybe they're looking to optimize their marketing around promotions, or maybe they're looking to optimize social campaigns. And so what we do is we take their enterprise data, we match it up with the life data attributes, and we'll typically match between 40 and 70% between the enterprise's customer list and find them in our data store. We have about 3.6 billion emails, probably one of the largest email databases in the world.
Sure.
We have about 300 billion attribute points on top of those data elements that we're able to then match with the enterprise. And then we'll build the predictive scores that meet those objectives. So we have a fraud score that's predicting fraud with just an email at 93% accuracy, working with 2 of the 3 largest credit bureaus. We are working with a major mobile carrier on churn, a churn score.
Sure.
And then we have a social influencer score as well, which is how socially influential are you? Do you have a voice in the community? That's obviously being used for optimizing social campaigns.
Okay, great. So then talk to me about how companies who may be even watching this video can access that data, right? Obviously, you just mentioned billions of points of data. So tell me, how do they get a hold of that?
Yeah, well, it's interesting. Whether you're a small business or a very large business, right? We've found in dealing with a lot of the enterprise customers we're working with, and these are blue chip customers, top retailers, top credit bureaus, these types of things, is that enterprises really don't want another complex platform.
Sure.
Right? So we've focused on building a suite of scores that address the business case in need, i.e. a fraud score, a discount shopper score, a social influencer score, a churn score, and we have a whole library of scores that we are planning to build, all based upon some business case that's there. And so the beautiful thing is we don't deploy a big complex analytics platform where an enterprise or small business has to go in and train their people to use it and get adoption. We spit out scores via an API. And so whether it's just access to the data, we do 2 things. We'll allow access to the data in various forms. So if you're a startup out there that has an idea or a concept around how you build an application around data, we can give you that data via real-time API access. You can build whatever value proposition you want around that data. Or possibly you have some business case where a predictive score will optimize a marketing objective, like minimizing fraud or identifying who's going to pay full price versus who's going to be a discount shopper. Because there's no point in sending out an offer to someone who's going to pay full price. And that value is derived from a predictive score. So we do both, and we deliver that via API so it can be very quickly deployed, very easily, relatively inexpensive. The support cost is much lower, and you don't have to install some big new complex application. I mean, enterprises themselves, they have their CRM systems,
right.
They have their marketing automation systems. They don't want another complex application. And the beautiful thing is these data elements and those scores can plug right into those existing solutions.
And are these scores something that you customize for them, or is it that they're just simple enough and easy enough that people can plug in their data and pull back the predictive score, like you mentioned, or the churn score? I guess, is that something you customize for them, or it's just simple enough that it doesn't need to even be customized?
It depends. In the case of the fraud score, with just an email, we can predict fraud. Literally, we're at 93% accurate. In the case of something like a churn score, that's more specific to an industry, let's say.
Sure.
The way we operate is there's some configuration that takes place when we first set up the model. I mean, if you're dealing with churn, say with a mobile carrier, that might be different. There might be some nuances from, say, churn with a online trading site like Schwab or something like that. So typically we'll have a configuration fee at the beginning, but a lot of the model components are relatively the same in terms of the factors that create accuracy. In the case of a discount shopper model, that pretty much applies to any retailer. So it works both ways. We're not developing custom solutions. We want to build a score that has broad deployment, but in some cases there is some custom configuration.
Sure. So if somebody's sitting at home right now, or in their office or wherever they are watching these videos, not on the road, and they are interested, they have a startup and they're interested in integrating data into their, or benefiting from data like yours.
Mm-hmm.
Where should they start, right? I guess maybe another way of phrasing this is, who should be using your data, right? Is it every startup? Is it a specific kind of startup? What kind of problems should they have if they're looking to solve it with your data?
So we've got a wealth of data. We have demographic information, psychographic information, purchase interest behavior, lots of social data. These are things like what are people's interests, likes, connections. And so it all depends on really what their focus is. We're working with one very early stage company that's building sort of a Yelp review within Facebook environment. Now, Yelp, as a lot of people may know, is not very merchant friendly. Merchants don't like Yelp, right? So they're taking an approach of being more merchant centric and creating a solution similar to Yelp from that perspective, right? And so they've tapped in and are using a significant amount of our social data in line with their business objectives. So it really depends on the nature of the business. If you go to Versium.com and go to our data card, you'll see all the different types of data we have, whether it's enriching information that you already have or creating an application around data. We had one group that said, hey, I want to create this new car site, and we have an immense amount of automobile data, right? So that's an example. It really depends on what the objective of the startup is.
But either way, it seems like with as much information as is out there, if they have the problem, you can probably solve it with the data.
We are collecting immense amounts of data on a continual basis. We're bringing 40 million emails in a month, and we're surrounding it with all sorts of social data. We're looking at location-based information through the carrier networks that are starting to open up that information. So if there is a need for data, Versium is going to be the place to come get it for sure.
Excellent. Well, thanks for having me into the office today.